Good evening, everyone. We live. I am being joined by some very special guests today. We've got one guest that's a returning guest, Sanal Haria, the Senior Market Manager at NZTC. Thank you very much, Sanal, for coming back to us. There must be something right that we're doing that you've chosen to come back to us at 7:30. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Aruna. It's good to be back.
Thank you. And I'm really privileged and pleased today because we are joined by someone really special. We are joined today by Dr. Sean Dolan, who is the Academic Dean at New Zealand Tertiary College. Sean, what an absolute privilege to be joined by you today. I've gone through your bio. I couldn't read through all of it because you've got more qualifications that I've pretty much seen in any one person. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sean.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Couldn't wait to attend. Sanil's told me so many good things. So I thought I'd better see what's happening.
Brilliant. We'll try and keep up to that bar. So just introducing you, and I will put it back to you, but I understand that you are the Academic Dean at New Zealand Tertiary College. You've been there for the longest time. We're talking double digits, so I'll kind of leave it there. Prior to this, you were also a program leader at the postgraduate program and a program leader for the graduate diploma program. You've got teaching qualifications in primary, teaching English as a secondary language. Is there anything that I've missed? Please tell the people that are listening to us today everything that we need to know.
So yeah, initially a background in primary school, and then I went on to teach in English as a second language to children, and then on to teaching English as a second language to adults. And more recently, just got my PhD from University of Auckland for Faculty of Education, specialist in ECE.
That's brilliant. Yeah, so you are the person to talk about early childhood education in New Zealand. We couldn't get any higher than this, isn't it? So that's fantastic. So what I want to try and do today is, and there was a reason why I really wanted you to come along, because often we've heard about the courses from a marketing perspective. We've heard about what kind of students can get in, but I really wanted to kind of delve deeper into the next layers of how the course is delivered. I've got a whole lot of questions that I want to ask you. I am encouraging people to ask their questions in the comment section. I've got a list of questions that I've collated from people, so I'll try and go through them, and then we'll try and attend to as many questions as we can in the next 35 minutes or so. So now, Sanal, so you'll help me with this. So NZTC has got its flagship graduate diploma in ECE program, which is a year and a bit long, depending on when you start in the year. And that leads towards the registration. Is there anything else I've missed about that course?
Yeah, so graduate diploma in teaching is a flagship program. Its duration is 1.33 years, which is roughly 16 months. It's offered by a blended learning mode, which means the student can choose their own start date when they want to start the course. And the good thing about this qualification is if you are in New Zealand already, and if you want to fast track the qualification by canceling your holiday breaks during Christmas and New Year, you can actually finish the qualification faster. And it's a very unique qualification because offered by blended learning. And yes, it does lead to teacher council registration for ECE teachers.
So for me to recap this for people that are listening, the grad in ECE can start on any Monday for people that are onshore. So you get the visa and the nearest Monday you can join the course. You can combine your PTE or IELTS tests. So if you don't have the score in the one test, you combine them all. You can finish it within a year if you work through the December break. It's done through through practical work, which we are going to delve into. It leads you towards a registration. If it's your first time course, it gives you a 2-year open work visa in New Zealand. Absolutely fantastic. And I think before I move on to the next course, early childhood teachers are in the regional skill shortage across New Zealand. So we all know that we've got kids all around New Zealand. Kids where there's kids, there's EC centers. And when you have EC centers, you have teachers. And compared to the primary teachers, ECE teachers, obviously you need more teachers in a center because of the child to teacher ratio. So that's definitely a very sought after course. Then you've also got the bachelor's course. Very quickly, Sanal, because I've got a whole lot of questions. So bachelor's course, can you please quickly take us through the bachelor's as well?
Yeah, so bachelor's qualification is meant for someone who do not hold a bachelor's degree from New Zealand or offshore. So if you hold a high school certificate or national senior certificate from South Africa, or similar, then you may look into studying a Bachelors of Teaching qualification of 3 years. It's again offered by blended learning. It again leads to Teachers Council registration to work as an EC teacher. Again, you can choose your own start date. And yes, the entry requirement is you have to meet the language requirements. So yeah, it's either IELTS or PT, or if you come from a country where English is your mother tongue, like US, UK, South Africa, Australia, Canada, Ireland, 7 countries, then you may not need us to provide us with IELTS or PT scores.
Okay, perfect. Now, I've got this question, and I'm going to probably start with Sanal first, but then I do want Sean's take on this question as well. So if someone, say, for example, has studied the postgraduate diploma, say with you guys, so there's a postgraduate diploma in ECE. Now, that course does not lead to a registration. They've taken the PG for varied reasons. They might have, back in the day, you could bring the family, they might need a 3-year open work visa, and now they're looking at getting into the graduate diploma. Is there any opportunity for cross-crediting any papers from the PG into the grad dip so that the duration or the course is reduced, or are they completely different programs? Sanal, I'll start with you, please.
Yeah, so both are different qualifications. The graduate diploma in teaching is in early childhood. It leads to teachers registration, whereas the postgrad does not lead to teachers registration. The courses are very different. One are more with practical. Have practical component in it, whereas the postgrad level, it does not have a practical component in it. So that's one of the reasons you cannot offer cross credits to this. But I think Sean can add some more as well.
Yeah. So Sean, are there any taught papers in the PG that are the same in the grad dip at all?
Yeah. So for postgrad in education has a stronger academic focus rather than the grad dip and the B Teach. Grad dip and the B Teach have a very strong practical component. The postgrad is more academic, it's more geared towards people who are thinking of doing a master's. So it's quite heavy on research. There's a strong research orientation. But we do have a number of students. We've had a number of students who've studied for postgrad and then transitioned to the graduate diploma. And these students do very, very well, because the courses that we cover in the postgrad do have relevance to early childhood. They have strong relevance to early childhood. And there's a lot of content that students are able to use in a postgrad for the graduate diploma. Students do very well, the ones who do the postgrad studies.
Okay, brilliant. And those of you that are listening, if you are in that cohort that have done the PG, you're now on your open work visa for 3 years, there is an opportunity for you to do the graduate diploma with a variation on your work visa. So that can be done. Immigration's been asking a whole lot of questions, as they are across the board right now. But Sanal, so if someone's getting into a graduate diploma and they're planning to do it with a variation, because I want to try and explain this to people, they don't quite get their head around it, because a graduate diploma is not a taught kind of program. It is quite hands-on, and I am going to put that back onto Sean just after I asked you this question. So if they are doing the graduate diploma with a variation to their work visa, they need a center. And if they don't find, often the question that I get is, I don't have a center, I've never done this, how do I get one? What's the support that NZTC provides those students for, that thing that they can't find the center?
Yeah. So Arunima, 50% of our students who enroll in graduate diploma come from offshore. They come from overseas, and obviously that means they do not have a center because they've never been to New Zealand before. So what we do is, anyone who's coming from offshore or anyone who's already in New Zealand but have never worked in a center, we provide them with a list of EC centers. So it's provided to them when they apply with us, and they mention that we do not have a center where we can practice. So we give them the list of EC centers. And we also give information, instruction, how you should go about, approaching those centers.
And so there is a list. So they can't just find any center. There's a list of approved centers that you provide them?
Yes, that's what we do. So there are a list of approved centers which we provide to them. And actually, they can filter it down. What we highly recommend is they filter it down first to the centers in the suburb where they're staying in. So that it's because the course of what we offer is offered by blended learning. So they're spending a lot of time practicing in the EC center. So a lot of our students we want them to find EC center close to where they stay. So we provide them with a list of centers and instructions how to go about finding them. With information like how to prepare a CV, how to go down, and it's like you applying for a part-time job. So you approach them, and mention that you are looking to study a qualification, but the course requires them to, to have a field experience while you study. And you'll be surprised because I think we work with almost all EC centers in Auckland and around New Zealand. So they're very well aware about how NZTC's blended learning works because they already have their students practicing in the centers, or they have their graduates who are working as a center managers
That's what
or teachers.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say, because you would be sort of, if these people are training in these centers, then they would be eventually looking at getting absorbed in those centers. Am I right?
Yeah, and that's what I've seen in my 12 years of career with NZTC. I've never come across any student who has not found a center or we had to place them. Obviously, there is an option where if it gets a worse scenario where students are not able to find a center, then we'll able to find something for them. But I have not come across students, especially those even coming from offshore, especially those who are just 18, 19 years old, never worked, they have a high school graduation, they're able to find the centers.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it for a second, and that's what we tell clients consistently. But I think it's good hearing from you, because you're on the front face of it. Sean, now there's a lot of words that we hear here. We hear about the blended learning. I'm hearing supervised field experience. We're talking about, there's quite a few terminologies in there. There's field practice. There's field experience. Now, I want to really break it down to little pieces for people. So, we've talked about the delivery mode, the blended learning. So I know all of these words, but let's try and take it to the next stage of things. So I want to try and understand. So if we, for instance, both, I think the bachelor's and the grad dip are both the same mode of delivery, if I understand that correctly?
Yep. So both are blended delivery programs. So what we mean by blended is that our courses are delivered to students online. There's also strong face-to-face components. So all of our students who are practicing for the GD or the BTEACH, they all have to be in centres. They all have to have home centres, and they have to be in home centres for a minimum of 16 hours per week. Or while they're in. Yep.
So before you move along, because I'm going to try and break it down for people. So home center is a center where you're doing your main part of the course. Is that what you mean by a home center?
Yeah, that's right. So as soon as you enroll in a course, you need to find a center for your field experience. We call this a home center. Now, this is a really, really important part of the process because in their home centers, student teachers will get to know the children, will get to know other teachers, they'll get to see how early childhood actually works in practice on an everyday kind of level. So they have a practice-based experience, but at the same time, they're also studying online. And when they're studying online, they're getting all the up-to-date materials, they're getting all the academic readings, they're getting all the input from the lecturers. So they're getting a strong theoretical component through that academic studies and through assessments and all the other things that we do. But everything that we do in the course, we relate back to what students are doing in their centres. So there's a really strong theory-practice connection that which I believe makes our college a little bit different, a little bit unique.
And that's what I want to get more into, because that's what I'm trying to get my head around it. So when these students, so there's a few things that I want to just understand. So when these students enroll in the course, they've got the center, they've chosen the center X, and they're doing the courses, the delivery of the course through that center. Whether that's and that's about how many hours is that in a week, Sanal? Oh, sorry, 16 hours
16
a week.
hours field experience.
And how many hours are they actually in the class at the college?
So when we had face-to-face component, international students were required to come into college for an additional 4 hours per week. And at this time, we'd have international tutorials. The students would get to meet each other. They get to have some more face time with the lecturers. They get to come on campus and use our library and use our resources. So that face-to-face component, although it's only 4 hours a week, was really important for many of our students, primarily because of access to lecturers.
That's right.
Because lecturers are always there.
Sorry. If you put that part aside, so you put the 16 hours and you put the 4 hours, so that makes it 20 hours. They're actually doing online studies for the rest of the time. Am I right?
Correct.
So how does that work? So how many hours are they doing that online study? Are they doing assignments? Do they have to pass? How does that work? If you can talk to us about that, please, Sean.
So in a graduate diploma, I believe there's 9 courses. Each of the 9 courses lasts for approximately 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, there'll be one major assessment task at the end of 6 weeks. during those 6 weeks, it's up to the students to manage their time so they're able to study online, do the readings, do the courses, and by the end of a course, we'll have prepared an assessment upon which they're assessed when they send that in for submission. So they're studying online, working in the centre, but it's all about time management. Obviously, towards the end of a course, students probably need more time studying because the assessment's coming up. At the start of the course, it's more about reading and perhaps also speaking to people. Really important thing, when students are in the home centres, they don't actually just see what's happening in early childhood centres, but they get to make connections with teachers, an associate teacher, and they can talk to their associate teachers about their studies as well. So it's really bridging these two different communities together, the academic and the practice side of it.
And does NZTC, so I think you've just touched on a really important thing, which is when you are kind of working, that becomes your priority and you get carried away, because especially if you have paid work at a center, even though it's, it may be slightly lower compared to the other teachers, that sort of, so we've seen the shift in priority for students. So how does NZTC help students sort of focus back on the studies? Because, and I think that sort of also leads to my next question, which is how would a student fail? Because they're rocking up at the center, they're doing the attendance, they're doing this field practice. So how does it, so just take us through the back end of it, please.
So everything that students study in the courses, they're asked to apply when they're actually in the sector, when they're actually in the field. So for academic courses, they're motivated to achieve the academic courses because it makes their field experience more richer for them. So the field experience becomes a positive learning experience. They're motivated to do it because they can see that what they're studying actually makes sense, and it's actually stuff that they can apply in their practice. So it's this kind of motivation that they're doing the right thing, that they're becoming more developed as a professional teacher, that they're accessing all the different learning materials, that they're becoming more and more familiar with work routines and work practices. So it's this combination of the academic and the practice really come together, and we have some very, very motivated students on the graduate diploma program in particular. Our graduate diploma program, without blowing our own trumpet, is probably one of our most successful programs. It's a fantastic program. I was the program lead of a graduate diploma for a number of years, and we have some fantastic students, particularly our international students, who are very committed. Once they enroll, they're very committed students, and they come with open minds and open hearts, and they really live our values as well.
Brilliant. That's really good to know. Just, Sanal, just a question for you. So when students are doing this sort of working in the center, and then they're also doing the tutorials so they're coming to the class, and then they're also doing online studies, is there an approximate number of hours or a ballpark that the student is advised that they must invest in their online education to be able to sail through properly? Like, is there a number or guidance that's given to them on how many hours they should be putting into this online study mode, because it's so self-done? You need quite a bit of discipline for it, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think there is no ballpark as such, as Sean explained to you, that they need to put minimum, and they need to put 10 hours or 20 hours. It's all about time management. So we encourage them with the readings. We encourage them to do a lot of research and read a lot of material. A lot of course material is provided to them. They have to participate in a group discussion forums online as well. So there is no set number of hours, but then they have to make sure that they do make sure that they do a lot of readings and do a lot of course material readings when they're studying online. It's at their own pace. That's a flexibility, but there has to be a time management. So some students may need a lot of hours put on the online study. Some students are very smart. They would not need a lot of hours. They work around it. So usually in the beginning, like any student, new students, they try to getting around the blended learning mode of study. So they take a lot of time, but down the line they quite get smart around how they should do time management. And as Sean said, obviously the number of hours they put on the online when the assignments are due, that's when a lot of students put a lot of number of hours to make sure that they get the assignment right.
Okay, Sean. Yep. Sorry.
Generally, I would advise students to anticipate at least 20 hours per week for academic study on top of what they're doing in the actual placement themselves. This is not an easy program. It's not designed to be an easy program. We want the best teachers possible because this is our young children that they're educating. So the quality of our program is important to us.
And that's what I want to get more into, because I think one of the things that I've heard from people is that I think they undermine the complexity and the amount of study and the investment that they actually have to do in terms of time and resources in doing this course. We've seen where they're fairly casual about it, and then they kind of get a shock because they weren't prepared for it. And they're like, oh my God. Yeah. So I think I want to actually, because we all want to get people that are absolutely serious, come with the right mindset, and we don't want to set people to fail. So in terms of the course, what is it made of? How many modules are in the graduate diploma? Is it made of modules, or how is it built up?
So graduate diploma is made up of 9 courses. Each of the 9 courses lasts for 6 weeks. Each of the courses has 10 courses actually, because field practice is a course. So it's 9 academic courses. So we have programs about leadership. We have programs about inclusive practice. We have programs about planning, of course, planning and assessment. So we have we try to cover a full range in the graduate diploma.
So when they are doing these 10 courses, and I think Sanal talked about them being able to sort of work through the school holidays and continue on with the course, is that only if your practicum falls through that period, or is it actually for classes as well? So is that actually for these modules as well, so they can continue studying the planning or the leadership through the holiday period as well?
Correct. Because it's delivered online, it's an asynchronous model. So students can study anytime they want. I mean, it's study anytime you want, as much as you want, really.
Okay.
A big part of what we do as well is we offer discussion forums for all of our courses. So all of our courses come as a discrete package. They come with their own kind of support system. So they all come with course guides. They all come with readings embedded in the courses. They come with briefing guidelines to explain the assessment tasks. And on top of that, we have these discussion forums which students are required to participate in. In the discussion forums, these are monitored by lecturers. So they talk about the courses that they're studying. They talk about aspects of the assessment that they have to do. And we require them to participate so many times per course, per discussion forum. And they can do that anytime they want. You find people all ridiculous hours in the morning posting because it suits their lifestyle.
Right. That's exactly what they need, isn't it? And that's the digital world. That's where the world's getting to. You need to get the job done and work it around your hours, and flexibility. And I think it's quite fantastic seeing that education's offering that as well.
Absolutely. I think it's just offered people a freedom that they didn't have before to study programs that they want to study or need to study. Yeah. And the whole thing about online, you can study from anywhere within New Zealand. You can study from the most remote part to Auckland. You can just study, and you have the same access to learning material, learning resources, and to our lecturers as you would do as if you're actually on campus.
That's right.
It's a great way for people to be able to do things they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Brilliant. I can see some questions building up, but I do need to ask you something else before 2 more questions before we move there. I want to ask you about a center. So what is the center's actual role in making sure the student finishes a course? So what is the center doing? And that's probably for a layman like me asking a question. What is the center's role in helping the student pass? I'm happy for Sanal to sort of first talk and then come back to you, Dean, Sean, however it works.
Sean, you want to answer that?
I'll kick off, I think.
Sure.
So of the 9 courses, one of those courses is field practice. The field practice is set in the centres itself. So for the academic courses, although there's really strong connection to the settings, the centre itself doesn't have a great deal to do with it. The students will refer to the centres in their assessments because that's where they're seeing examples of good practice or whatever it may be. But it's for field practice when students are actually, so for the graduate diploma, students have to do 14 weeks of field practice. Field practice means that students are in centres full time. And while they're in centres full time, they have an associate teacher, and the associate teacher guides them and supports them to achieve the learning outcomes of field practice. Because field practice is a course within itself, it has set learning outcomes, and it has assessments for students to complete while on practice. So students will be supported with their AET. They'll be given opportunities to try new techniques. They'll be given opportunities to interact with children in ways they may not have done otherwise. They'll get opportunities to take part in leadership initiatives in centres, because this is what we're promoting in our assessments. You'll find that students who have a good relationship with their associate teacher and with their centres tend to do really, really well. The centres offer students a lot. I mean, we offer, expert knowledge in EC, but when you're actually in the centre, and early childhood in New Zealand is very diverse. We've got a range of different philosophies. We've got Reggio, we've got Montessori, we've got mainstream, etc., etc. When students are in these individual settings, they can really find what resonates with them best, and what appeals to them both personally and as a teacher moving forward.
Brilliant. That's great.
So from the center's role, from the enrollment perspective or career perspective, the support I provide is they become potential employers at the end of the day. So I think almost all of our students get placed in the same centers, their home center where they're practicing, because they're trained in that center. They know the kids, they know the parents. And a lot of students have told me even before they graduate, sir, I've got my job offer is ready. I'm just about to graduate, but I'm already been offered a position in the qualified teacher.
That's right. Yeah. And we get that a lot from your students as well, because we then end up doing the visas. So we absolutely get that. I'm going to jump onto the questions, because I do want to make sure that people get those questions answered. And I'll see if I have the time to kind of ask my question later on. There's a question here from RMMJ. I think we've already covered the question. It says, is there any possibility between cross-credit courses in level 7 and level 8? I think we've already answered the question that they are two distinct courses. Sanal, if you want to take this on from Yolandi, it says, I'm currently teaching in Dubai. I have a bachelor's degree, 10-year experience. Will I be able to qualify to teach in New Zealand? South African citizen.
Yes, Yolandi. I think since you already hold a bachelor's degree, we would encourage you to apply for graduate diploma in teaching qualification, which is meant for students who already hold a bachelor's degree. So I would really, as we discussing the qualification, so graduate diploma in teaching in early childhood should be the right qualification for you, because once you graduate, it leads to teachers registration, which will allow you to work as a qualified EC teacher. So Yolandi, yeah, that's what I would recommend you.
Brilliant. We've got this next one from Mansi. It says, I did level 7 and 8 in business both. Now I want to do a level 7 in ECE. I want to do that course during my job search visa of level 8. For pursuing ECE, do I need to join any center as job of reliever for fulfilling the requirements of immigration or NZTC? For taking the VOC from immigration, please come out. So I can do the immigration bit of it. So I think this person is clearly on open work visa after the PG that they've done, and they want to do the graduate diploma with a variation. Yes, we can apply for a variation. We've done quite a few. Immigration has increasingly become a bit tight, and they're asking for those support letters. And Sanal, you can do your part and what your experience of that is.
Yeah, so yes, it's because the course what we offer is offered by blended learning, which requires you to practice or to do field experience in an EC center. So you have to find an EC center, Mansi, at the time of application, at the time of enrollment. But if you're not able to assist, just contact us and we'll be able to give you a list of EC centers and guide you through how you should go about finding an EC center. So
Brilliant.
yeah, so we'd surely assist you, Mansi, if you're really keen to be an EC teacher.
Yeah. And my team will reach out to you to have a discussion post this. We've got this one asking about total number of practicums in the course, and can a student do all practicums in home center only?
Sean, you want to take this?
Yeah. So for the GD program rather, is 14 weeks of field practice, and we split that into 5 weeks, 4 weeks, and 5 weeks over the 1.3 year. So the first placement would happen approximately 2 months into the program, the second placement 2 months after, and the final placement around about 2 months after that again. So it's spread throughout the year. The question about whether practicums or field practice placements can be done in home centres is an interesting one, because with COVID-19, we're in changing times at the moment. Previously, pre-COVID-19, students would have to do a mixture of home centres and out of home centres. But given the current concern about transmission of coronavirus, students are now completing all placements in home centres. I'm not sure how long that's going to last for. Not anticipating any change for a few months, but we're in new times.
There's another question from the same person. I am going to reach out to this person because they seem to be asking some really good questions about the course. How many block courses a student needs to attend throughout the course?
Yep. So 2 block courses per stage. So graduate diploma we consider as one stage, so they would attend 2 block courses. One very close to the start of the program, so we can upload them with really important information, and one later on in the year. At the moment, we're doing, and again with reference to COVID-19, we've stopped gathering groups of students together, and we're doing our block courses online, pretty much quite similar to what we're experiencing here. And we're getting some excellent feedback from the students about how we're doing our virtual block courses.
Sean, for those people that are listening, because there's quite a few that I can see viewing this session right now, what do you mean by block courses? Because a lot of them wouldn't understand. What is a block course?
So in teaching education programs, in teacher education programs that are delivered through blended learning, there's a requirement for students to attend block courses. This is when students from both programs actually will come together for 16 hours. 16 hours, and this happens twice per stage, and this gives them an opportunity to meet one another, to network with each other, and also gives us the opportunity as lecturers to introduce any new materials or new initiatives, and really just to develop our student body and to and really encourage them to network with each other. International students find block courses really supportive.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sanal, if you can please take this one up. It talks about just the IELTS requirement, but I'd like you to talk please about just the general English requirement for the grad dibs and how they can combine different scores and all of that.
Yeah,
please?
so as per the Teachers Council requirement, and this course is also approved by NZQA, so you have to meet the language requirements set by the Teachers Council and NZQA as well. So as per the Teachers Council requirement, the students can go for IELTS or PT or one of the English approved language tests, which is there on their website. Most of our students go for IELTS or PT tests, and the IELTS requirement is 7 in each band. I'm talking about international students. The IELTS requirement is 7 in each band, or PT requirement is 65 in each band. But you can achieve the test scores in multiple sittings. So, for example, if a student has scored 7 in reading and writing, but listening and speaking, she scored 6. She has the option to reset the IELTS again, but ensure she scores listening and speaking 7 as well. So we can club the IELTS score. Or if she doesn't want to give IELTS again, she can go for the PTE test and score 65 when listening and speaking. So we can combine IELTS and PT also, or
Brilliant.
just PTE scores. But also that some students coming from some countries, example South Africa or from UK, Teachers Council is also very clear that if you complete your bachelor's degree in English from those countries, then that can be equivalent to meeting the language proficiency requirements as well.
So they can be exempted on English testing as long as they can prove that the qualification, the bachelor's degree was done in all English. Is that right?
Yes.
From those certain countries.
Yes, and I think, for example, National Senior Certificate, it should be level 5 or level 6 in English if you're done from South Africa. So the Teachers Council on their website is quite clear on their English language requirements, what they expect from students who want to study initial teacher education courses. And we absolutely follow that because our qualifications are approved by them.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, I think we've already answered this question, but we'll just say it very quickly. So this person's trying to get into the course in the October intake, wants to know whether it would be entirely field or home center learning.
Yeah, so at the moment it'll be home center, but that's all that could change depending on COVID-19.
Cool. I'm just trying to go through this. This is quite an interesting one. So we obviously get lots of questions asked around discounts. And if there's any discounts or scholarships or bursaries or anything. So can you please, Sanal, talk to us about any discounts that NZTC offers?
Yeah, so currently we're not offering any discounts or scholarships to international students. But if you're already on shore, um, we can look at allowing you to pay fees in 2 equal installments in 1 year, or if you're doing graduate diploma, 2 equal installments. Well, obviously this is subject to approval by senior management. It's case by case, but we can, uh, keeping in mind the situation currently with coronavirus and the financial stress a lot of students are going through, we can look at installment options. But as you know, for offshore students, they have to pay in full from Immigration New Zealand's perspective.
Brilliant. Okay, so the next one says, can we get cross credits? Well, we can leave the discount part because we've done that conversation. Are there any cross credits on EC courses done previously? We have also talked about it. I think the answer is no, because this is so specialized and tailored towards registration. Am I correct?
Sean, you want to answer that?
So we do have cross credits for EC. So for some EC courses, depends on the provider and depends where and when they were done. It's unlikely that we'd cross credit from the UK because what we're teaching is so different to what's happening in the UK. It's completely different curriculum and different approach. So highly unlikely.
Sanal, this one's for you. It says, how many possible multiple tests do you can you combine? Either PT or IELTS, 2, 3, 4. How many times can you continue doing these tests?
It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4. As long as you achieve 7 at any point of time, and all certificates should be valid. So they should be within the 2 years. They should have completed within the 2 years. So we had students who gave 4 times. So 7 in writing, 1, 7 in listening, 1, 7 in speaking, 1, 7 in one of the tests, reading 1. So, and we can accept those as long as all the certificates are valid.
Yeah. For Raman that's asking for an appointment, Raman, my team will be in touch with you. This is probably not the best avenue, but I will take your next question. So the wife's done a level 8 in postgraduate diploma in ECE, intends to start level 7 graduate diploma ECE. Can they pay the fees in installments? I think, Sanal, you've just talked about it. That is a possibility.
Yeah.
It's obviously case by case, but I'm sure that can be worked out if we convinced you have enough funds for the next semester, which obviously we will do the homework with. So that's really good. I'll see if there's more questions that come up, which now leaves me a couple of minutes to go through the questions that I had. Hopefully this is not too much. We're trying to, because I mean, I want to try and go through as much as I possibly can, and there's some really good questions coming through. Sean, you good to keep going?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, why not?
Brilliant. So we've talked about quite a few things with the graduate diploma in teaching, the curriculum and how it's delivered and all of that, center. I want to know about something that's slightly wide. I'm going to take a step back and look at this sort of from a holistic point of view. What is sort of the support that's provided to students, to just pastoral care support that's provided to international students? And especially, what was the situation that happened during the COVID, during the lockdown when people couldn't go to centers? Can you just, guys, I don't know who's the right person to talk about it, just talk about that general pastoral care support that's provided to students, and especially around the lockdown period when they couldn't either come to the classes or go to the centers. How were things rolling along at that stage?
Yep. So I suppose a key thing here is communication. So our pastoral support team are highly effective. I think they would have called many of our students to explain what happened during lockdown and our changing processes. We were constantly sending out updates to students so that they felt assured with what it was they're doing. Of course, many centres closed during that lockdown when we were in number 4, stage 4, whatever, level 4. We were able to support a number of our students to continue studying through lockdown, even though they couldn't attend centres. We'd spoken with teaching council and we'd come to an arrangement that allowed our students to continue studying while all centres were locked down, and while many other institutions were closed. We were still operating, we were still supporting our students. We were still running discussion forums, our courses were still running. The only thing that actually stopped was field practice. And field practice only started up again actually on Monday just gone. So we've been really busy calling students, arranging field practice visits. Everyone's back into the centre. But as I said before, the difference is before we had this home centre focus for many of our students, we are out of home. All students are now in their home centres, which is not a bad thing for our students, actually.
Okay. And that'll obviously be reviewed. Now, we are coming to the end of the session, and I see we've gone through quite a lot of questions. I do need to understand, for my own sake and for those people that are listening that don't quite understand, that what is the difference between a field experience and field practice course? It might sound like a silly question, but I just can't get my head around it. So I've heard you guys using the two different terminologies. What's the difference?
So when we're with our graduate diploma students, they're expected to be in centres for a minimum of 16 hours per week while they're studying their courses. We refer to these 16 hours as field experience. So because all of our assessments, all of our courses are geared towards a kind of practical component, we require students to be in centres so that they can actually see what it is we're talking about. And then another one of our courses is for field practice. So the field practice is, like I've said, I think it's 14 weeks for graduate diplomas spread throughout the year. And during those 14 weeks, the expectation is that students are like another full-time member of staff in terms of hours. But with a field practice, because it's a course, it has its own learning outcomes, its own assessments, and its own grade at the end of it all as well. So the field experience just allows our students really to get into a centre, to feel comfortable, to get to learn the names of the children, get to know how the centre runs, because each centre can be quite different, because of all different philosophies, all different policies and whatnot. So this field experience is really, really important for relationship building primarily with the associate teacher and with the children, of course.
Brilliant. One last question, I promise, if there's nothing else that comes through. Sanal, the next one's for you. So there's one here from the person here. Mohammed, there are no discounts. I think we've kind of said that. So I'm going to leave your question here, and I'm more than happy to reach out to you individually. But what I want to understand, because we don't often get Sean here, so I want to try and make the most of this absolutely unique moment. So you talked about the 10 modules that the course has. The graduate diploma has got 10 modules, and they're doing their assignments as they go. Are there any exams as well, or the assignments decide that the students pass the module before they move on to the next one?
Yeah, so we assess through assignments. The assignments happen at the end of the course. There's no face-to-face exams. There's no physical exams as such. It's all coursework. The coursework is good because it allows students to really explore and investigate the readings, really get some depth behind their responses.
Brilliant. Okay, Sanal, the last one's for you. We've talked about everything, and this is sort of my wrap up for the session. Tell me, because you talk to these people, you are like people know NZTC and they know Sanal Haria, so you know the questions that these people ask. In our head, we think of EC and we think of NZTC. Why is the graduate diploma in teaching at NZTC in the EC space so unique to the other programs that are around there? There's not many in New Zealand, but why is it so unique? Because I know for a fact it is. Can you just sum this up, and then I think we're kind of done with this session?
Yeah, the simple reason is because we offer it. One of the reasons is we offer it by blended learning mode. So as Sean explained to you, that it's not class based. I don't think we can make teachers by making them sit in the class. So I think one of makes it very unique is the blended learning option, which requires them to practice from day one, and they're practicing in the same home center, which can be their potential employer at the end of the day. Second thing is students can choose their own start date, so they can let us know when they want to start. So unlike some institutions where you have to start in Feb or July, or you have to wait, here you can start anytime. So we leave it to the students to start anytime. And the third option, I think, is the possibility that you can be as you explained, on a work visa, and you can study your qualifications, work full time, and study as well at the same pace. So that makes us really unique in terms of why graduate diploma in teaching is qualification. And we offer it in Auckland and Christchurch, both the campuses. Again, since we offer it by blended learning mode, we have students not only in Auckland or Christchurch based. They're based around Auckland. So we have students in Hamilton, we have students in Whangarei, we have international students in Tipuke, Tauranga. We have students in Queenstown and Oamaru and Timaru, and they're looking to study our international students who want to study outside Auckland region as well.
That's right. Brilliant. Look, guys, I wholeheartedly thank you very much. I think you fielded a whole lot of questions with the utmost calm. Hopefully it wasn't too much, but I did want to really delve into you know, the ECE sector in New Zealand, and you know, if you are looking at early childhood education, it has to be NZTC. So thank you so very much, Sean, for joining us, and as always, Sanal, thank you very much for joining us, guys. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Arun.
Yeah. Bye-bye.